Okay, so Jay, back with you again. So a lot of you are probably like me. I can't sit there and spend hours and hours and hours doing one drill. It gets mind-numbing, it gets boring. Maybe a half an hour after that, I might as well not be practicing because I'm going to be just not interested anymore. So for those of you like me who may have a little touch of inability to maintain focus on something that is redundant or repetitive, I wanted to talk today about practice games you can play. And these are ones that you can do anytime you want. The main theme is you can do them by yourself for the most part, and I'll talk about a couple of multiplayer games. But most of them are play by yourself. You score, and you compare your score to your previous scores to see how you're advancing. You've seen me playing the Ghost, where I'm trying to get better and eventually beat the Ghost. So today let's talk about a few of those. The first one, very simply, is the Ghost. You rack up whatever game it is you want to play. Typically, for me, it's 9-ball. For some people, it may be 8-ball. You break, you take ball in hand, and you try to run the table. If you run the table, you win. If you don't run the table, you lose. And then as you get better and better at playing the Ghost, and by the way, one key thing, when you play the Ghost, for example, a soft break is preferable to a hard break for purposes of winning against the Ghost. It's not always that way when you're playing against an opponent. The reason is that with the Ghost, you continue to shoot no matter what happens on the break. And so keeping all the balls in one place is an advantage over spreading them all over the table. I would encourage you, when you're playing practice games, to play them the same way you would if you were playing a game. Don't play differently because of the rules of the Ghost. So with that, the Ghost, and I'm going to do like a rack or two of each of these so that you can see how they're done. With the Ghost, rack up your game, whatever it might be. I'm going to use 9-ball. You break, and no matter what happens on the break, you get ball in hand after the break. So, and again, use the same thing that you would do in a game. So, break them up. Okay. Take ball in hand and try to run the table. And I'm getting in practice while I'm doing this. That's why I'm going to shoot this all the way out. Hook myself. And that's it. The Ghost wins. Okay, so for the Ghost, you play races. So first one to win X number of games. Start with a race to 3 and make it longer and longer. I probably wouldn't go any longer than a race to 9. That's about as far as I go. If you get to a race to 9 and you're beating the Ghost, change the rules. Stop taking ball in hand. You have to shoot from where you break. If you don't make a ball on the break, you lose. start changing the rules to make it tougher and tougher and tougher, so it gets progressively harder. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Make it harder and harder and harder. Okay, so that's the basic game for practice. A great game for practicing by yourself is straight pool. And so straight pool, or 14-in-1 continuous is the other name for straight pool. The idea is that you rack the balls up, and when you're shooting, you get to the end of the rack, and you're on the last ball, you have to break the next rack with that ball. Now, when you're playing in a game against somebody, this game starts very, very slowly. It tends to have quite a few safeties in the beginning, and frankly, that's not conducive to a practice session. So what you do for practice is go ahead and set yourself up with a break on the first rack. So you take the top ball off and set it off on the side. And by the way, that's how you rack it. That's how you rack it when you're beyond the first rack. Only the first rack, and the case where there are no balls left on the table, you made 2 in your final shot on the rack, will you ever have a ball back up on top. After that, it's just wherever the balls lie. I mean, if you left yourself this shot, well, you have to make that shot and either break the rack or set yourself up for another one. And the idea here is to run as many balls as you can. So a couple of breaks you can use. There's really 3 of them that I like, and then there's a bunch of other ones. The 3 that I like are when the ball's on the side like this. That's actually a little bit low, so we'll move it up just a hair. You shoot the ball in the corner, cue ball hits the rack, and you want to bring the cue back out to the top of the table. Well, not that far. I hit that a little too hard. You want the cue in the center of the table. But you can see you get a little bit of a spread. You've got some problem balls you have to deal with. And from here, you just run as many as you can until you get down to 1 ball left. I will tell you that you will be better served to shoot soft in this game. By the way, there is no order to these, but you'll be better served to shoot really, really soft. If you go around banging the balls in, it's going to be a long day. You really want to get pocket speed on just about everything, and I kind of screwed that up because I wanted to come out here, so I'm stuck playing the bank. And so the idea is you just keep shooting, and you figure out how to deal with that mess in the middle. You'll end up using the bridge a lot in straight pool compared to other games. And basically you just want to keep going, keep running until you get down to 1 ball left. I think I scratched. Nope. So I want to see how many balls I can run, and then once I'm done running them, that's the number to beat. And I just keep track of my high runs, and I try to beat my high run every time I get up to the table. And I might play 2, 3, 4, 5 racks of straight pool in 1 practice session. And you can see I've just hooked myself, so I'm probably at the end of my run. I can try to come up with something, but there's really not a whole lot here except maybe cross side with throw. And nope. So that ends my run. There should be a 15 balls total, right? So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 from 15 means I made 7 balls in that run. Now I re-rack and start over. and I go for high run after high run after high run. I mentioned I would show you the other breaks, a couple of other breaks to get you started, if you're not familiar with the game. So, the break we just had has a ball on the side, somewhere out here, and the cue ball at an angle where it's going to hit the rack. Now, when you shoot this, if it's going to hit the second ball naturally, or it's going to hit the face of the third ball naturally, you want to use bottom inside English to bring the cue back up to the center. If it's going to hit on the back face of a ball, you want to use top outside English so that the cue comes down and spins out to the center of the table. Those are the two breaks from the side like this. And there's all kinds of variations of them. You've got this variation where you've got an angle, you're still going to hit the rack. Nine's going in the pocket, cue's going to hit the rack and come back up and break the rack up a little bit. You've got this variation of it where you're going to shoot the 9 down into the rail and the cue ball's naturally going to come straight across into the rack. Out of those, I greatly prefer one where you're going to hit the rack directly without hitting the rail. Okay, under the rack. Ball on the rail, cue hits the rail, comes up, hits the rack. Not a great break to do. It'll work, but you got to hit it. And when you're trying to break, you really want to hit one of the two corner balls. Preferably, on any side, you want to hit one of these back corner balls, because that's going to give you a break and the cue's not going to hang up in the rack. The last thing in the world you want from a break is you shoot it, cue comes up, and now you've got that. You're pretty much stuck. Your inning's over. You're playing safe from there. So try to hit those last, the second or third ball somewhere in there with enough force to get the cue ball to come back out of the rack. Okay. Next break. From under the rack, you get something like this. This is actually my favorite break, and there's two ways this can go. In one case, if you're going to hit the rack kind of thin, you use top right and it runs to the rail and it spins out to here and you got your break. If it's going to hit it more full, you use top left, it hits the rack and then it spins and goes 3 rails back out to the center. So those are the two under the rack breaks. And the third break, and this one I really kind of like, you've got a shot at the side pocket and the cue's going to run into the rack. Now the downside to this one is you got to hit this one pretty hard because you got to get the cue out of the rack. This one does have a tendency, because of the angles it uses, to stick in the rack. So those are your break shots for straight pool. And of course, anything can be a break shot. I mean, you get something like this is your final shot. Great. You hit the 9 in, you come down 2 rails, and you hit the rack, and then spin off this way. It doesn't matter. Okay, so straight pool, getting a high run. That's a great game for practice. It's probably, in my opinion, the best game for practice because you're having to deal with lots of problems. You're having to deal with a lot of pattern play. I love this game more than any game out there. I play a lot of 9-ball because it's popular. But as far as what I'd rather play, this is the game, straight pool. Okay, so that's another one. And you track your high run, and however many balls you run in a row, that's what you do. And you try to get better and better and better. All right, next game. So this is one that Frank Alvarez of the UPA's leagues, and by the way, that is the league that I'm playing in now, temporarily, till I get my game back. Frank Alvarez is the president of the UPA. He's also a 7-year pro. May actually be more than that now. He was a 7-year pro. They kind of stopped playing and then turned around and he's now running the UPA, which is the men's professional tour. Okay, so his game is start with 4 balls on the table. Don't have to be the 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. Your goal here is to run them in any order. So just play whatever pattern looks good to you. Play them in any order. All you want to do is run the balls in. Okay, so successful running 4 balls. Now I'm just going to take 5 balls. I'm just throwing them out on the table randomly. So now I'm taking 5 balls. Put 3 back out there. Oh, by the way, you get ball in hand every time you start. So I've got ball in hand. I'm shooting whatever I want to shoot, any order. Now I'm a 9-ball player, so I actually shoot these in order when I'm doing this game. But you don't have to. I mean, you can shoot them in any order you want, like I did in the first rack. Okay, so I missed my shot. So now what happens? 1 ball goes down, and I'm back at 4 balls again. Okay, and what we're doing is we're making this table progressively harder. And again, ball in hand on the first ball. Wherever they land, that's where you shoot from. Shoot them in any order you want. And, you know, you just keep adding a ball every time you manage to run them. Add a ball to the rack. Every time you don't run them, take a ball off. Obviously, going down to 1 ball is probably, if you're at 1 ball, you probably lost for the day, start over. But the idea is to practice your position play and practice your patterns. Okay, so that's, don't know what to call it, but that's Frank Alvarez's practice drill. So the next practice game we're going to talk about is a game created by Pool and Billiards Magazine. It's called 99. And they used it for something they called Rated Player International. I don't know that it ever took off, but it is a good game to gauge your skill. And I'll try to hunt down, they have a scale, so to speak. Or they have a scale that rates you as far as whether you're okay, good, great, semi-pro, pro, and so on. And the way it works is you rack just like 9-ball for the first frame. You have 9 frames, and you use a scorecard somewhat similar, and I don't know how well you can see that, but it's similar to a bowling thing. The difference is in bowling you have pins and then strike spare or more pins. Here you have if you got the break bonus and how many balls you made total. And the way it works is this: you break the rack. If a ball goes in, you get 2 points for a break bonus. And then you get 1 point for every ball, and you get ball in hand after the break, and you get 1 point for every ball you sink. For a maximum score for a rack of 11 points if you break and run. They've got kind of a weird quirk in it that they say each rack, you rack the number ball on the frame on top. So first inning, the one's on top, second inning, the two's on top, third, the three, and so on and so forth. So very similar to playing the Ghost. You only get one shot at it. So, okay, so you get one shot at it. I made a ball on the break, that's 2 points. I made 6 balls, that's a grand total of 9 points for the rack. Two and 6 is 8. I can't count. 2 and 6 is 8. I got 8 points for the rack. And so now I'm on the next inning. I take them, I rack them back up. And the reason it's called 99 is because there are 99 possible points. You have a maximum of 11 points per frame and 9 frames. If you make the 9 ball early, you get credit for the whole rack. If you make the 9 on the break and scratch, you get 1 point for the 9, but you don't get any points for the break. If you scratch on the break, you do not get the breaking bonus. So this is second frame, so the 2 ball would go on top. And you go through until you've done 9 frames of it. And you record your score. I'm going to look up what the scores are for each of the various levels so that you can kind of see where you're at. So that's 99. Another good practice game. Now there's a practice game that my brother likes a lot. It's called Billiards. And basically you have any 10 balls, it doesn't matter what 10. You rack them in a small triangle and you score this just like you do bowling. So you get ball in hand after the break. You shoot until you miss. And then you shoot until you miss again. And on the second miss or clearing the table, it ends. You do not have to shoot them in any particular order. You can shoot any order you want. And the object is you play it just like bowling. Maximum score of 300, 10 frames. It's literally scored. I just used the wrong cue. Literally scored just like bowling, and you try to improve your score every time you do it. So that's a good practice game. And again, no particular order, just shoot them in. When you miss, that ends the first ball of your bowling. So I would have 2, 4, 6 on the table. That means I made 4 balls. So I'd have a 4 for the first half of the frame. Wow, what happened to my draw? Slop does not count, it's all call pocket. So I had 4 in the first half. I had 3 in the second half for a grand total for the frame of 7. Works just like bowling. If you get spare, you get the next ball's worth added to your score. If you get strike, you get the next 2 balls worth added to your score. It's a good game. interesting, kind of fun. So those are some games you can play alone. There's a couple of games that are interesting that you can play with other people. Now, if you're going to practice with a partner, if you're going to practice with a second person where you're both shooting, you have to agree before you start shooting that if something comes up that you may want to shoot a second time to try to get right, that it's okay to stop, put them back where they were, and try it a few times. You both have to understand it's practice, because if not, you're just playing competitive, and that's not going to do you that much good from a practice standpoint. So, first practice game. And I actually have a set of rules somewhere for this, but I'll give you the basics of it. So, this game is all about safeties. So the way it works is it's 9-ball. You're following the rules of 9-ball. You break. And you shoot until you don't pocket a ball. You know, I didn't make anything on the break. It would be the other player's shot. Now, here's the catch. You do not win this game by pocketing the 9-ball. You play to a score. You say 10 points or 20 points. And the way you get points is by playing safeties. So even though I can probably pocket that one, it's a better play to try to hide it. Okay? Now, in this case, I didn't hide it, so I don't get any points. I get none. If I had gotten it right and hidden it completely, I would get a point. If he can see any part of the ball, no points. So, hiding it, 1 point. Then, if he hits that ball from the safety and makes a legal hit, he gets a point. If he pockets it, he gets 2 points. If he misses it completely, you get ball in hand and you get a point. So 1 point for successfully hiding the cue ball. 1 point if he misses it. On his side, he gets 1 point if he hits it and makes a legal hit, drives it to a rail, and he gets 2 points if he legally pockets it, and it's called shot. Now, you do not have to play a safety every shot. In this case, I have a pretty easy 1, 2, 3 run that I can play. Okay, see, I screwed myself, so now I'm going to play the safe now. But if I get it right, I should shoot the 1, I shoot the 2, I shoot the 3, and I position myself in such a way that I play the safe off the 4. And now I've got a point for hiding him from the 4. So you can pocket balls. In fact, you can run it all and go through the 9-ball and go into the next rack and break and make a ball and keep running until you're ready to play safe. You're just not getting any points for doing it. The points come from hiding somebody and for somebody that's been hidden by making a legal hit. And that's 2 points for making the ball. So that's how that works. And that's a fun 2-player game. It makes you think a little bit differently. It makes you think about your defense and your safeties. And it makes you execute them, which is really important. Okay, next game. This again is with a partner. This is a fun game. Used to play it with a buddy of mine down in Florida, Skip, great guy. And this game is called cribbage. And the way the cribbage works is you get a point for pocketing pairs of balls that add up to 15. Until the last ball, which is the 15 ball, which should be in the center of the rack. So any ball on top, 15 in the middle. And what you want to do is pocket pairs of balls that equal 15, and every time you do, you get a point. There is no set order, and it is possible to have choices if you make 2 balls. The downside to having choices means that there's one less pair on the table, and of course, since there are 15 balls, one of the 15 ball is worth 15 points, is worth 1 point. All of the other balls, that would be the other 14 balls, means there's 7 pairs, so there's 8 possible points per rack, and you play to like 20 points or 25 points or 30 points or whatever. But basically, you break. I didn't make anything. So now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for pairs that equal 15. The 1 and the 14, the 2 and the 13, the 3 and the 12, the 11 and the 4, the 5 and the 10, and so on down the line. 9, 6, and 7, 8. So I would look at this and I'd say, okay, well I can make the 5 right there, I can make the 10 down there, so that's my first set. And I shoot them, the 5 and the 10, that's a point. Now I've got the 7 and the 8 sitting right there, 7 and the 8. Now I've got 2 points this inning so far. I can shoot the 11 and the 4, shoot the 12 and the 3, I can shoot the 13 and the 2, which is probably the best shot right here, the 9 and the 6. I mean, I can go any way I want to, but I got to pocket a pair that equals 15. And if I pocket one half of it and not the other, the one that let's say I pocket the 13, but I miss the 2, or I mean I pocket the 2, but I miss the 13, 2 ball comes back out, goes on the spot, and they get racked down. This is called the long string on the table. It's the center diamond to the center diamond on the other end rail. If it's obscured and there's no way to place it on that spot, it goes behind it, frozen to it on the long string, or directly behind it if you want to call it that, directly behind the spot. So that's cribbage, fun game. Again, if you're going to do it for practice, you should agree beforehand that if a shot comes up that you shot and you missed and you need to work on, that it's okay to stop and set it back up and reshoot it. So those are some games you can play. The way I'll typically do it, you've seen me playing the Ghost in some of the videos. The way that I typically do it is I'll do a couple of stroke drills. The one where you run the cue ball down the table and back and it hits the tip of the cue, I do that one, 5 or 6 or 8 times, just to make sure my stroke's accurate. Then I'll throw a bunch of balls out and just hit them to warm up, and just try to run the table, no particular order, just shoot them in. Then I'll pick one shot for the day, and I'll shoot that shot over and over and over again for maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it takes till I feel like I've got the shot. Once I feel like I've got the shot, then I stop. I pick one of these games we just talked about, and for me it's 99% of the time going to be the Ghost, or it's going to be straight pool. and I shoot until, and I play that for a little while against myself, trying for a better score than I've had previously. And then once I'm done with that, I'm done. And so hopefully you found some games to play that you hadn't thought of before. Hopefully you see the value in the various drills. Mainly, I'm going to play one-player practice games for practice because I'm very competitive. And if I'm playing another player, it's no longer about the practice and getting the shot right, and it becomes about beating the other player, and that's not what we're trying to accomplish with practice, unless you're doing competitive practice. And competitive practice is to find somebody who's a little better than you and play to win. And just play competitively. For me, I've joined the UPA's league, although I'm a little frustrated with it because it's a bar league, and I'm very particular about etiquette and sharking and not walking in front of people and just having common courtesy. And frankly, at the bar leagues, they just don't have that. It's a bar, people are drinking, people are walking around, you're going to get bumped while you're shooting. And I'm taking the approach that it's something interesting, but it's not going to give me the competitive practice I was really looking for. I'm probably going to start playing some of the local tournaments to get that competitive practice in. Other than that, of course, there's always the option, if you're in an area that allows it and it's legal, to get into a game for some money. Keep it low if you're watching these videos. The odds are you don't need to be playing for money, and that includes me. But anything that puts pressure and stress on you is good in moderation. You don't want to, I wouldn't want to make my entire practice routine nothing but going and playing tournaments. I really wouldn't get that much practice out of it because I'm not going to try those wild shots. I'd never shoot that can't say never, but I rarely shoot that 3-rail shot you saw me make a minute ago if I'm in a competitive match. So anyhow, typical practice day for me, a couple of stroke drills, throw some balls out to warm up with, pick one shot and work on it until you feel like you've got it. And when I say one shot, I mean with variations. So if you're doing a cut shot, cut it from different angles, cut it with different English, see what they do, make sure that you can control the cue ball. If you're doing a leave drill, try to leave it in different places using different English and being consistent in that. But some kind of drill, shoot that until you're comfortable with it, and then some kind of game to gauge where you're at. And I would encourage you to be consistent in the game you're playing, because they don't map over. You can't say, well, I got 60 points in 99 and I got 180 in billiards, so now I must be doing better. Well, they don't translate like that, so you can't really do that. So with that, I will let you go, and have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, and any comments are always welcome. Thank you.